Do you have a specialist retailer close by? I'm lucky enough to have one close to me. In fact, he's here tonight. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday. Welcome to another vPub. I'm very, very excited to welcome you here for another couple of hours of hanging out and chatting about whiskey. Wonderful to see you all again. I know that it's Official Week. There's so much content going on right now. Lots and lots of live content being put out by the distilleries over there on Islay. It must be very, very tempting to just kind of boot up the PC and hang out doing whiskey things all day if you're still finding yourself on lockdown at home as I am. So I appreciate you coming along here and joining me. I know it's a wee bit later in the day. Hopefully you've had your fix of the official festivities. I've got a wee link for you that I'll put back in the stream a wee bit later as well, just to remind you that you can keep up to date with all the things that the guys over on Islay are bringing us. It's fantastic. And I'll drop it into the chat, a wee link, copy and paste that to your browser for later, and you can see what's happening. Today is obviously, I think, Kilchoman. Tomorrow's Bunnahabhain. Over the course of the weekend, we'll have Ardbeg. And I think that'll be it. Ardbeg usually draws Official to a close. But it's been great to see the effort that the distilleries have gone to in order to bring us a wee bit closer to that thing that we're missing. I know that so many of you are going to be joining me over there this year. And just know that I'm feeling just as sad as you are. But I'm looking forward to the next time we can all get together. In the meantime, we'll make the most of this. Fantastic to see you all. I'm going to jump into the lounge and welcome in the wonderful whiskey folk and the dedicated barflies. Let's see who we have tonight. We've got Rolf over in Norway. Good to see you, Ebhead. It's always brilliant to have you in. Frank is here. Peated. Robert Primo is in as well. Bill Monteith has upgraded his membership to the Patreon Averse. Bill, it's lovely to have your support. Thank you very much, my friend. So obviously, it's also wonderful to have your direct messages as well. Thank you, Bill, and welcome. Gregor McQueen is here as well. Good to have you, Gregor, out in Oregon. Colourless Blue Things. Wonderful to have you, my friend. Always great to see you. And as Zach Andrews from Texas. Mark Slinger from up north in Speyside. Luna Aaron from Germany. Shane Lay is here. Kilted Moose Scott. Always wonderful to see you, Scott. Andrew Piers. Looks like a new name. He's saying Kilchoman was superb today. He's obviously talking about the content that the guys put out. Wonderful. Andrew, I didn't get much time to catch it earlier. McAllen Fine and Rare the Doc from Germany is in. Desi Vleeland, good to see you, Desi. Tabitha Adams, Per Christensen, Malcolm Douglas, Menno's Multi-Mission, Luna Aaron, Alan McLaughlin, good to see you, Alan. Rob Gilmore. Rob, I think I recognise that name. I certainly recognise the icon. I've welcomed you in before, my friend. Great to have you. Che Francis is here. Bud Jenkins, always great to have you in, Bud. Tony Evans. Oh, it's jumped. I'll try and catch it from the bottom. Glenn Anderson, that looks like a new name, Glenn. If it is, welcome in. You're very welcome here. Peter Hunt, good to see you, saying good evening. Just in from a virtual tasting with Southport Whisky Club. There's a lot of it going on just now, virtual tastings. I think these virtual tastings will be very much here to stay. It doesn't need to replace the real life things. It can be an enhancement. I mean, think of all the inclusion that a virtual tasting brings when you can't travel to these events, when you can't be there in the real space. They could even maybe have hybrid events where they are literally live streaming a real live tasting and also sending out dram packs at the same time. And that way you're getting real life kind of people interaction as well a wee bit. Be interesting to see how something like that would work out. Carl Van Wallingham is in. Great to have you, Carl, as always. Kevin Grant on Whiskey, my cousin, who's gone out live on Facebook a wee bit earlier as well, bringing you a virtual quiz. I dropped in for a few minutes while I was chasing my kids around the house. Sid Martin is here. Greg's Whiskey Guide in France. Jimmy Jazz, wonderful to see you, Jimmy. I shipped a package to you a few weeks ago. I was waiting to hear if you've received it yet, but I've not heard anything from you, Jimmy. If you've got it, let me know. If you haven't, I apologise. It'll be with you soon. It's taken a long time for these packages to get to their destination right now. It's one you're not expecting, Jimmy, so I'm interested to see what you think when you get it. Falsgraf is here. Wonderful to see you, Keith Corbett, Marcus Kreitner, of course. How's Christina doing, Marcus? Graham Horner, and who's that? Subamoy Chakraborty. Hello, Roy. That looks like a new name. Wonderful to welcome you in. David Anderson is here. Lee J. Brown, Chris Brown as well. And of course, he's here. Blair Conrad, Jimmy Legg is in. Fantastic to welcome you all. I hope you're comfortable. I hope you're sitting and still have a nice dram in hand. Maybe it's something peated after the day that you've had. I'm going to do a wee bit of blind tasting with my guest later today as well. It's been interesting, the guests recently, and it's difficult to keep it up, honestly. It's not so much that, you know, inspiration for people to get on the show. There's plenty of that and lots of input from you guys as well, of people that you would like to see, people from the industry, interesting characters that you think might be able to bring a nice bit of value and interesting content. And I've been really enjoying the Thursday streams recently and keeping those filled with guests. But it's nice to kind of switch it up and shake it up a bit. I realise that if I get Kirsty McCallum on, which I'm keeping my fingers very crossed that we can have Kirsty on very soon, she's in her new role up in Glenmurray after years at Distillery. I realise that there's going to be you know, a significant series building up almost of having whiskey makers, master blenders on. So it's nice to kind of get different perspectives. The whiskey industry is not always about producers. And if I think back to my whiskey journey, when I was first becoming more than just kind of a passive whiskey lover, let's say, I started to really geek out about whiskey. I started to get super curious. I couldn't get my hands on enough whiskey to try. I wanted to learn as much as I could. I was spending time watching YouTube videos and reading books, and I was really getting into the whiskey thing. And round about that time, I found a treasure trove of whiskies to try, little nuggets of inspiration, and feeling very much like you're standing in the same environment as somebody that's very like you or somebody that gets you. And I'm talking about standing in the environment of a spirits retailer. As a specialist spirits retailer that has a good knowledge and a good range of whiskies. That was amazing to me. And the store I'm talking about is Glasgow's Good Spirits Company. Now, it's gone from being one shop when it opened in 2011 to 3 sites they have now across Glasgow. It's growing and thriving. And that's in a time that shops like that shouldn't probably be thriving, because their competition, or the traditional spirits retailer, has kind of receded, certainly in the city centre anyway. So what is it about a place like that that makes it thrive? Well, I think it's much like the drinks industry, that people are drinking less and tasting more, whether it's gin, whether it's fine wine, or whether it's indeed whiskey. And when you're doing that, when you're getting into that kind of thing, you tend to need a guiding hand. You need inspiration. You need somebody that gets you and understands and can make recommendations, and also tug you in a direction that you might not have gone in. That's what I found at Glasgow's Good Spirits Company. That's where I found Roddy. You all know and ask for Roddy regularly. That's where Roddy spends his working week as well. More than just going in and buying bottles from Good Spirits Company, you start to find out who the staff are. You know what they like, and you can talk to them about their passions in whiskey. Then you attend their tastings, and then you hear that they're holding masterclasses or training modules. And I went along and I did that as well. Through the tastings, through these events that they were putting on, they were teaching more and more knowledge. And incidentally, alongside that, they're also building community. There's almost like a culture of interested, curious folk coming along to the shop that they get to know as well. And I think that might be something to do with why I think they are still succeeding in Glasgow and doing very well. But let's not just listen to my opinion on it. Let's invite in the co-founder, one of the original co-founders of the Good Spirits Company in Glasgow, my friend Matthew McFadyen. Matthew, are you in good shape?
Yes, Matthew, I'm very well. Thanks, Roy. How are you doing?
Welcome to the vPub, my friend.
Thank you. Lovely to be on.
Yes, it's wonderful to see you in this environment. Of course, we're used to being face to face, perhaps. I'm used to seeing you there in the shop or at a festival, perhaps. But in these times, we need to make do with seeing each other over a video screen.
Yes.
I've actually been fortunate to have you on my doorstep numerous times, it seems, recently. Either yourself or Alex bringing out deliveries and keeping me going. And I'm very grateful of that as well. So tell me, are you finding it tough right now?
It's challenging and interesting. You know, I think we're all having to adapt to what is kind of challenging times, but we're kind of making it work. It's been good, and what I've really loved doing is getting out and seeing our customers. So I've been doing lots of deliveries, and it's been, you know, if you know the shop, it's stuck in the basement, and when you're in there all day, you don't see any daylight.
Yes.
It feels like the back cave.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a nice excuse to get and enjoy the sun when we have some.
Well, I mean, it's been nice. I mean, I suppose that's a nice thing. It's you're within social distancing guidelines and everything. You're not doing a kind of there's nobody coming into the shop. You're taking orders online, and for people within the Glasgow radius, up to about a 6 mile radius, I think you're doing free delivery as well. Thank you very much for that. I've certainly made good use of it myself, I think, but it's kind of been nice, yes, to have that contact a wee bit. But what I found is that when I see you on the door, and today I got drams delivered to me by the Glasgow Whisky Club for Saturday's virtual tasting from Rich from the Glasgow Whisky Club, and it made me realise even more I'm really missing people. So this virtual thing is great, but it's going to be good when things ease off a wee bit. I don't know how long that's going to be, honestly. But so you're finding ways to work through that free delivery thing is a scheme that you came up with in response to the current situation. You're investing big in your online website and things to kind of try and do a bit more there as well. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's always the case that things that need to be done get put in the back burner when you don't really see the need, or it's there to be done, but there's other more pressing matters. And then the current situation is more focused on our web shop. The web shop we have is tired, I think would be a polite way of describing it.
Well, it's functional, I'd say, but it could be perhaps a wee bit clunky. I think it's just of its time. You've had it a wee while now, right?
Yeah, it's been active for about 7 or maybe even 8 years. We launched it in a rush because we did a tie-up with the band Mogwai. We launched a single cask whiskey with them, which you occasionally see on Scotch whisky auctions and places. It was Glenallachie.
So you released a Glenallachie with the band Mogwai.
Yes, a single cask bottling.
Yeah.
But so we managed to source it through David Stark for them, and they launched it in the shop. So we had a kind of, there was a hard deadline to get the website up and running. So it got thrown out there, and it hasn't really changed apart from since the current situation. We've thrown up all our beer and wine, which it never had before. So that's kind of caused more chaos on the website.
Well, I have to say that if there isn't a hard deadline for something like a website, it's just how long is a piece of string. I've been involved in a lot of those projects, and if there isn't a hard deadline, something to force it, it's just kind of left to, it could be better, let's try a wee bit more.
Of course.
Maybe this current situation is what's now driving you to get the new website up and running. So I am looking forward to that as well. I have to say that I'm going to share a wee story with you that I remember my first ever tasting my first ever whiskey tasting that wasn't in a distillery tour, let's say. And it was at the Good Spirits Company, and it was in that wee whitewashed room in the back that you've got there. A room that's become very close to my heart, I have to say. I'm quite missing it, the times that I've had there. And I remember sitting down, and it was Roddy. It was Roddy that was hosting the tasting. I didn't really know who Roddy was back then, apart from someone who worked there. And he picked up, I don't remember the whiskey he picked up, but when he started to talk about that whiskey, somebody asked a question that made Roddy kind of pause and drop his head as he does. And I've come to recognize this demeanor. He goes, because he realizes that in order to answer the question, he has to establish a couple of things first. And then he went on to give a fast summary of the blocks of production of whiskey and how they could potentially affect the end product in terms of flavors. And he said it in a few sentences, and the clarity that came across, and hearing that in that room made me realize I wasn't there just to taste 6 whiskies and then maybe pick a bottle up and go home. It dawned on me what the effect of doing that kind of thing, what it could provide. Education. Sitting together with people of like-minded folk, because you don't go to that unless you're really, really curious, those kind of things. And to get that kind of information and that kind of understanding. I'm going back to probably 2012, 2013, 2014. I'm not sure when it would be. Quite a few years ago. But getting colour painted on the canvas like that is super valuable. And then I got to know all of you guys in time. I've been at a couple of Ralphie tastings there as well, which have been fabulous, superb. And I remember Roddy saying to me, he said, maybe one day you'll host a tasting here yourself. And I got to do that in May last year. And it was amazing. And you and I talked about this, about just, it doesn't feel like you're working. I don't know if it's like that for you to get to, I don't know if you just get to have fun when you're holding the tastings. Would you rather hold the tasting than do the other things you have to do in the shop? Or to me, it was, there's a buzz in the room. Everybody's happy. The first dram is always stilted. Yes. Is it fun for you? Because this business is born out of that passion.
Yeah, of course it's fun. There's no way you could sustain the energy to do it without, because it's not it's an industry that we got involved with because we love it. We love what the opportunity to share our passion with people and try and light that fire underneath them that gets them excited about what we've got, and even just lead them on a journey through different whiskies, try and find things they like, but also kind of reveal why some distilleries they might find challenging, but why they would be challenging, or why some distilleries, are a great one to start off with, just because they can be lighter, more approachable, that sort of thing. But I think it's that, my favorite thing is when you see a customer coming back through the door saying, that was amazing, and you're going, oh, I can't remember what it was you bought, but yeah, I'm delighted you enjoyed what it was. But I love that reaction people have, because it is so visceral for them that they've come in, they've found something they love, they've enjoyed it, and they're coming in looking for more.
Visceral's a good word. Visceral's a good word, and I think that's kind of what I was trying to get across there. That feeling of it's more than having a wee dram of whiskey. Precarious Dave in the chat has just said it dawned on you were on the right place. Absolutely, Dave. I think that's exactly what I'm trying to get across. But did you envisage? Because what I've mentioned there, maybe I'm gilding the lily a wee bit, over egging the mix, talking about a community building up around the shop and education and things like that. That's from my perspective. Would you say that you're feeling that as well?
Yeah, I would say so. When we opened the shop, we opened in 2011, 1st of June 2011. So it's going to be our 9th birthday on Monday coming.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're very excited. Sadly, we're not open because we normally do a big fancy premium whiskey tasting for that. But we, when we opened, we really wanted to think about, how do you build something interesting? How do you, when you've got a huge range of products that most people will have no idea what they are, how do you bring people into those? And the only way you can do that is through tasting and through education and through, sharing that pleasure with other people. I think that's really where the real excitement comes from. It's having this whole world of interesting drinks in front of you, mostly Scotch, that you can open and show people, and you can see that light in their eyes when they try something interesting. It's
Absolutely.
Really,
well, it's very similar, actually. I mean, you've made a business out of it, but the reason I do what I do is because I'm driven to share. And there's nothing like that vicarious enjoyment of an epiphany that you've had with a whiskey. If you can enjoy the same thing happening to a friend or somebody that you've introduced it to, that's quite an addictive thing. More addictive, I'll say, than the alcohol. I'm speaking from a very personal place here, but that's the reason this channel exists. Is because I was a wee bit annoyed that I'd spent 35 years of my life not understanding what whiskey was about and ignoring it. It was 35 before I got into whiskey. Yeah. And when I got into it, it took a while to get going, to the inertia, right? But once I got into it, it's just my personality is like that. I didn't want other people to be starved of this who I thought could benefit from it. Friends, and so I would bully friends and I would hit them over the head until they were curious, then they were interested and then enjoying it. It must be similar to you. You must get the same kind of, you've got that drive, and of course that there is a business there. You have to make it work. You have to make it profitable. Yes. But it's nice if you can go to work every day. I mean, I'm sure you have challenges, Matthew, don't get me wrong, but you've carved out a business, your business, from your passion.
Yeah, we've been really lucky to have opened at the right time, I suppose, when there was a thirst for that style of shop or the kind of range of products that we sold. So, we don't just sell whiskey, we predominantly sell whiskey, but we sell lots of other things as well.
Yes.
But we started at the beginning of the kind of gin boom where, we opened, and having a range of 20 gins was a big, that was a big statement for people. And now we probably stock about 150, and we're actually trying to reduce it at the moment because gin's become less interesting.
Really? Is it flattening a little bit, you think? It's just overheated?
Sales are flattening, and I think people are less excited about the new one. 2-3 years ago, people wanted the latest thing. Everyone wanted the new gin. I want to try the new one. What's new? What's different? What I've not had? And now people are like, well, this gin I really like. I want that gin again. I want the one I really enjoyed that.
That's different. Whiskey's different.
Whiskey's very different. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a shop, when we opened, we've kind of we're a fairly small company. 3 shops, but we're still not. We're not massive, so we're slightly restricted on what we can stock. We don't deal direct with some of the big guys, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because we deal with the people we want to deal with, and we then stock lots of independent bottlers, which gives us a huge choice of different whiskies that change consistently. So we might get Carmore come in and show us some drams, and we'll order 6, 7, 8 different whiskies. We'll only order 6 of each because we know in 2 months' time, when they come back, we'll have sold them all and we'll be ready for a new batch of whiskies. And it means that we've got this consistent turnover of stock of things that are always interesting that we can then, because we've tasted them and we've picked them ourselves, we can say we like that. And we do that with loads of other distilleries, bottlers as well. So Dougie Lang, we work closely with them and we'll stock quite a few of their whiskies. And then there's loads of other people that we deal with.
I'm smiling when you talk about Carnmore and you talk about independent bottlings because I've got another wee Good Spirits Company story. And I'm there at a tasting and things, and I come out and the bottle that I'd wanted had sold out. There was a rush for it and people bought it. And I got chatting to you after the tasting, and I said I really loved that, and I never managed to get a bottle. And you looked and you went, "Have you tried this?" And you reached for a Carnmore. Mm-hmm. Now, you won't remember this, but it was, so I'm going back to, 2015. And you reached for a Carnmore Benrinnes. I had vaguely heard of Benrinnes. I'd never tried it. And it was an 18-year-old for about £50, £55, something like that. And you had an open bottle and you said, try that. And I was blown away. And I said, what is this? What am I tasting? And you said, it's Benrinnes. It's quite a nice meaty whiskey from a very active cask. And I bought it. And I am now halfway through my last of 4 bottles of that bottle. It's here, Matthew. I've got it here for a very specific reason, but I'll hold it up. You might vaguely remember it.
Yeah.
I bought everything that you had. And the last bottle, this one that I have here, I actually bought it from a different place because you'd obviously quickly sold out it. And that's me down to my last now. It's been a fantastic bottle. And it's driven a love for me of specifically Benrinnes. I think it's a fantastic whiskey. It can do fantastic things. And it was back in the time that I would have looked at an independent bottler and said, why would I buy that over the branded product? And I think that's a concept that a place like you have to have that discussion with people quite regularly, no doubt, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we do. It's that. I think that's one of the things I love about whiskey is that when it's particularly independent bottlers, you try something that's really exciting, and it's a moment. It's that the bottle is once it's gone, that's it. That's that transient thing about whiskey. Because once it's gone, you're then looking for what's the next one. What's next? What whiskey next is going to bring that spark back? What's going to really excite me? And sometimes it takes a long time before you find that one whiskey.
Talking of which, we've both got whiskies in front of us right now. Peter Hunt is saying Carnmore has been blowing me away recently with some of their stuff. Their Ben Nevis 4 was out of this world. There was a there was a few Ben Nevis 4s flying around at the same time. Heavily peated Ben Nevis 4, I think it was. Alan McLaughlin is saying Matthew hit the nail on the head. My wife stopped buying new gins. She has found the ones she really likes and is happy to stick with them. It's almost like going back to the old days of whiskey blends, where people had a brand, they drank the blend, they replaced it, and they became a grouse man or a bells man or something. Whiskey Stream 5, that's Tony. He's saying, I've got to get up early. See you on Sunday, Roy, and Barflies. Tony, thanks for dropping in on a work night. I know it's an hour later for you as well, my friend. I look forward to welcoming you on Sunday. And I noticed Tom R was in. And Tom R's over in Chicago, he was sharing that he didn't get into whiskey until he was 52. And I saw somebody else saying, Mark Slinger saying he was 53. So I guess that both of you guys probably felt the same way as I did, as if only there had been a Matthew McFadyen or a Good Spirits company to kind of show you the light, or maybe an Aquavitae back in earlier years. Philip is saying, what is and where is Matthew's dram? He has a few drams in front of him. We're going to get to that, Philip. I gave Matthew an Aquavitae Blind Challenge, and I didn't want tonight to be about an Aquavitae Blind Challenge. It's just a backdrop. So Matthew's already done half of it. He's been given 5 drams. He's gone through the first 2 stages of so he's ranked them, his favourite to least favourite, right? Yep. And he's opened the challenges envelope. Do you want to read out what the challenges are?
The challenges are...
I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop a link into the...
So the challenges are, number 1, find the wine finished dram from Islay. 2, find the non-Scotch whiskey. 3, find the antique whiskey. 4, find the sherry cask Islander, non-Islay. And 5, find the partially triple distilled stay cider.
How high is your confidence on those challenges?
A lot lower now that I saw that Ben Rinnes.
Do you think I've put the Ben Rinnes in there?
Potentially.
Because I'm talking to you about partial triple distilled, right?
Yes.
Well, maybe let's see. And I did hold it up and say it's here for a very specific reason. And I was probably very clumsy the way I was covering the coloured dot that stuck to it to remind me.
It was the fact you're clearly covering something. I was like, damn, that's on there. Right, okay.
Yeah, I don't have much on your face, buddy. But you still have a significant challenge in front of you, even if you're trying to pick out that from the lineup. So I've just put a link in the chat for anybody that wants to grab the Google document that's been printed off and sent to Matthew. On the last page, I've edited that to show which colour is which. So if we refer to colour, you'll know what we're talking about. So what's going to be interesting is if I open up that document now and ask you how you've ranked the whiskies, I'm going to look at the last page so I can see what you've ranked first to last.
Okay, so first I went red.
Wow, okay.
Second blue.
Second blue. Okay,
third yellow.
Third yellow. Fourth
green. And fifth, is that meant to be orange, or is that?
Yeah, the orange. Yeah, it's kind of it's slightly darker than the yellow, right? So orange was last.
Yes.
Okay, wow.
I know this is. I'm feeling quite nervous here.
No, I think there's certain things in that ranking I would have predicted, honestly.
Okay.
I think so.
Interesting.
I think so. Yeah, interesting. So I've got. Do you want to have we'll get the challenges off you in a second. I'm going to go through my blinds that you've given me. So when Matthew dropped by and picked up the blinds from me, thank you so much for doing that as well. It saved me from a socially irresponsible thing to do today. You dropped off 3 drams for me. Thank you so much as well. Dram number 1 is gorgeous. I'm really enjoying it. It's very reminiscent of a certain thing to me. So what Matthew dropped off was a wee clear bag there's no labeling on it whatsoever. And I've got no idea what it is, but it's not for me to guess what it is. We're doing a similar thing here. We're just trying to assess and share what we're getting from the whiskey, whether we like it or not, and then discover what it is, okay? It's very reminiscent to me of like refill sherry, but it's very Clynelish-y to me too. I'm looking, you've got a poker face as well. It's very reminiscent of Clynelish to me. There's a very nice kind of, I label it as barley sugar, and I've had this discussion with Roddy, and it's one of those ones that we don't see eye to eye, but it doesn't really matter. His definition of barley sugar is different from mine. I just know that when I taste it in a whiskey, it's there. There is a slight bit of waxiness here, but I think this could be Clynelish from a refill sherry cask, which makes it slightly behave a wee bit differently, but the Clynelish thing is often still very much intact. That's my thought on that one. The second one was much drier. Everything lightens up. It goes a wee bit kind of almost sandalwoody. There's an oddness to the number 2, a slight unique kind of thing that's just out of reach of me defining, but it's almost like the slightest hint of a wine element in there. But the nose is dry, and the palate follows up with that slightly drying palate as well. I'd say that number 2 was my least favourite out of the 3.
Okay.
Number 1, I think so far is my favourite, but this has been in the glass now for a good half hour or more. This was very hot and spicy when I first, not hot, it was the highest ABV I think out of the 3. It's either a rich wine or it's sherry cask. I mean, it's just much more mature on the palate than it is on the nose, but it's so vibrant and bold. Lots of ABV there, so it's kind of difficult to pitch what age it would be. Goes a wee bit tannic and drying on the finish, so it smacks of a kind of European oak, maybe. There's a lovely weight to it. There's body to this one. It's behaving a wee bit like a Mortlach might. And the way it finishes, the way that drying spice makes me think of a sherry cask. So there you go. Shoot me down or big me up. What's happened?
Well, this is the only one I've got a bottle of at the moment. So this is, sadly, you're kind of right on some respects. Sherry cask, very much so. But it's 21-year-old.
Which one is that?
That is from the 80s, a whiskey bottled in the 1980s.
So is this number 3?
That's
it can't be number one. Number 1, yeah.
Oh, sorry, were you on number 3 there?
No, the last one I picked up was number 3, yeah. So this is the one I thought was refill sherry cask. It was behaving a wee bit like a Clynelish.
Yeah.
21-year-old Glen Grant. So what ABV would this be? It was quite light. I've written down here sub 50, I would say.
40%.
40, yeah.
That's the old Gordon MacPhail labeling of it. So
it's a beautiful whiskey. Beautiful whiskey.
Just old-fashioned, understated, not rushed. I like it for its lack of, it's not trying to be anything. It's just, it is what it is.
So would it be? I suppose it could be bourbon and sherry in that, right?
Probably sherry. You know, in
Oh.
those days, Gordon MacPhail were mostly using sherry then.
Okay, so I was within 80 miles. Okay.
But then, you know, it's an older style. Like Glen Grant was heavier back, you know, a long time. It's gone light now, but it wasn't light a wee while ago.
So it was a heavier prospect back in the day. There's a lot of vintage Glen Grant still out there available. All
Gordon MacPhail have got.
Gordon MacPhail, yeah.
Yeah, they've got lots of stuff.
And number 2, what am I picking up here? This is the one that was slightly odd.
Yeah, I think it might have been decanted for too long. It sat in a bottle for a wee while. So this is Balblair, 1983 vintage.
Wow, really?
46%. Yeah.
I've had that before. Wow. I think I did a blind challenge, my own blind challenge. I get sent to me by Aaron McFault, who's maybe in here tonight. And I filmed myself doing my own blind challenge. And the 1983 Balblair was, I think, maybe it was a 75. There was a vintage Balblair in there. It might not have been the 83. This was available up until a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
They had it at the distillery and it wasn't that expensive. Okay, it was an expensive whiskey, but for something of its age.
Yeah, it was very good value for what it was. And under the old packaging, when the pricing was based around vintages, the pricing was all very sensible.
It's still got that kind of sandalwoody. And I did check my glasses to make sure they were all nice and clear, because sometimes that can happen. You can have something odd still in the glass, but no, they were all bright and clear. Wow, I'm really surprised at that. And the third one?
Third one is 58.3%.
Well, I got that bit right.
Is a Springbank 12-year-old single port cask.
Ah. Port.
Yeah.
I can smell it now. It's clearly port. As soon as you know what it is. Why wouldn't I get the Springbank from that?
I think the wine is quite dominant, so often that kind of lays over the top of things.
I hope I did say wine because I've written it down.
Yeah, you did mention it.
Rich wine, I've got written here. Rich wine / sherry, I wrote. So that's a Springbank from a port cask. Wow. So Matthew, I hope you do a wee bit better than I did on these three, but not bad, just shooting from the hip. And I think the point I keep making about this is that if you're going to, especially if you're going to dish it, you have to be able to take it as well, is to kind of strip away that fear of blind tasting. And also the kind of myth that people can pick up a glass and know what they're drinking. I know it can happen. It can happen, and it's wonderful when it does happen. But you're often lulled into this false sense of security that you're finally getting your head around whiskey, and you're just lucky on a particular night. So let's hear your challenges then. Let's hear how you were going to nail it.
Okay. So the wine finished dram from Islay, I put as the blue one.
Okay.
The non-Scotch whiskey I put as the green one.
Okay.
The antique whiskey was the red one.
Okay.
The sherry cask Islander I put as the yellow. And the parsley triple distilled space cider I had as the orange, which I know is wrong.
You know it's
wrong. Means at
wrong.
least one other one's wrong. So yeah.
So if anyone clicked on that link, I'll just drop it in the chat again for anybody that wants to go and have a wee peek. I'm not going to tell you how you got on because there's obviously another 5 challenges you have to do. There's a kind of semi-blind. It'll be revealed to you what the whiskies are that you're drinking. Now you can open up that envelope, but I'll reveal them to you and to everybody that's watching at home at the same time, bottle by bottle. How does that sound? Go ahead, burst open your third envelope then.
My second envelope, you mean?
Sorry, yes, you've only got two. Yes, normally there's three. Sorry, your second envelope. Yep.
That sounds like you're going easy on me. Right. Ah, okay. Interesting. Okay.
So, if anybody is able to see that, I think I dropped the link in again. If anybody's able to see that, the first on the list, I'm going to pick that one up first, is this one, Texas whiskey, Balcones Mirador. This is their take on Scotch because it's fully pot still distilled and it's matured in refill casks. This is at the ripe old age of 23 months old, being Texas whiskey. So that's Balcones Mirador. That's the first one. The second one was, clearly we're looking at a wine aged Islay here, Bunnahabhain Burgundy cask. Latest special release, 2005. Just released, 600 bottles only. The next one is, of course, you're absolutely right, the Benrinnes Carnmore that I first bought in, let's see, is there a year on this? Yep, 2015. So it was 5 years ago, Matthew, that I got that bottle. Yellow. No, wait. Have I been through it all? We also have here, I need to watch the colours here, a 12-year-old Chivas Regal from the 60s, the 1960s Chivas. So there's a good chance that there'll be a significant amount of 1950s distillate in there. And Fingal's Cup Macrimur. This is the Lag Distillery exclusive, so it's Lochranza distillate, heavily peated, being sold out of the new distillery. Clearly, sherry cask matured. So all you've got to do, Matthew, is match them up. You take a moment doing that, and I'll chat to the folks in the crowd in the lounge here and say, Whiskey Weekend Dramas in, good to see you, saying good evening all. Glenburgie, 22-year-old in a glass, opening up now. Good for you. Alfie Robinson is here. Good to have you in, Alfie. Service Alafis, Andreas from Norway. Superb, Andreas. Richie Z is here. Daniel Vermaas, of course. Red Sox is here. Another geek on the wall. I think one of the better values I've seen in an old malt recently was a cast strength Loch Lomond 22 for about $70. I just picked up a cast strength Loch Lomond as well. And I got a single cask, actually, and I got it for a really good price. Still some bargains to be had out there. Who else do we have? Hoyt is here. Hoyt, good to see you, Hoyt. That Chivas from the 60s was very nice. Hoyt, I must have sent you a wee sample of that in the past as well. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Completely different from what we might expect from any blend these days. Although I have to say, Chivas Regal blends are pretty decent. I still enjoy the modern contemporary ones. You feeling confident?
No.
Nick Keenan's bought me a dram. He's saying, I made my own. It's a Speyside t-shirts. Is it a Speyside t-shirts? Here is my royalty payment for use of the Aquavite logo. Good for you, Nick. I want to see a photo. You need to share a photo with me. And I sent you the artwork, Nick. Matt Wally is saying, evening, Roy. Good to have you in, Matt. And Philip is saying, where did you get the old Chivas, Roy? I got it at auction. I don't remember which auction, but most of the old blends or antique whiskies I have, I would pick up at auction. Specialist retailers do occasionally stock them, but I thought you'd have had this nailed.
To me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going through it, just making sure.
Shane is saying another benefit of a specialist shop is that they know their customers. When a friend went to get me a bottle for my birthday, they knew what to recommend based on what I like and probably did not have. Matthew's responsible for two of my gifts, Mortlach 25 and an Arran 21. my wife has rang in and you've recommended those. So
Right.
thank you for that as well.
I hope the Mortlach was a good choice.
I've still got it. It's a lovely dram.
Yeah.
It was a great dram. A Gordon MacPhail as well.
Yeah, yeah, they've got some great bottles. Right, I think I'm done. Oh,
I think you'll have these nailed. Tell me then.
Okay, so the Balcones is the orange one.
Okay.
The Bunahab and Burgundy finish is blue.
Okay.
Carnmore is green. Macklemore is yellow, and the Chivas Regal is red.
Matthew, this evening you have scored an amazing 8 out of 10.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've nailed your semi-blind matchup. The only thing that you got wrong actually was that you got 2 switched around in the challenges. You picked the Balcones as the potentially triple distilled Speyside, and you flipped those 2 around, the Benrinnes and the Balcones. You got back to front, back when you didn't know that there was a Benrinnes in there, of course.
No.
So
I didn't even twit.
And so then you'd worked out that as soon as you heard or smelled that there was going to be a Benrinnes in there, you knew you'd get it wrong, right? But 8 out of 10 that's an amazing score. There are people doing the blind challenge that would kill for that score. I'm one of them. Well done, buddy.
Well, once I knew what the drams were, it was, I could tell which the Balcones, they do some really interesting whiskies, but they're still very young. I think you just can't rush some things. And it felt quite angular. It felt immature. And
I have to say, you're sipping it in amongst a pretty decent company. Usually I would be putting something that's kind of budget in a blind challenge. I would be putting something that's a bit kind of ubiquitous, maybe something that we might overlook, something that's cheaper than £20 or something. But none of that's there. They're all fairly decent drams I've shared with you. So the Balcones would have struggled in that company tonight, I think. But I do think in isolation, I quite enjoy it. I've managed to get through this, not too bad since I opened it. I'm halfway through. I think it's okay. It's kind of good.
I think what's interesting about it is clearly, I think it says there that it's refill casks, and often a lot of these young distilleries in America, when they're using casks, they feel quite forced. They don't have the elegance that a lot of the more traditional bourbon distilleries have. So the casks they're quite obviously woody in a way, and because this is refill, you've got some of that slight sawdusty kind of dusty character from the cask, but it feels less intense. The spirit is shining through a bit more.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
And the Texas climate is obviously quite forceful. You used the word force there, didn't you? That the variation in temperature is such that they say that it matures the spirit very rapidly over there.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, when I drink whiskies over in Texas, it makes sense. Just kind of being there and drinking those style of whiskies in that environment, in that climate, it just, everything fits, right? Mm-hmm. A wee bit like having a nice Isla on a stony beach on Isla.
Yeah, there's something special about being in the place, isn't it? I love, that's one of the things I love Isla, and I think that's really what that was something that really excited me about whiskey when I first started drinking. The idea that when you drink something, it transports you somewhere, and that Isla drams are really the ones that stand out in that regard. They really.
Does it still happen to you even now? You've not become jaded by it?
I think it happens. I wouldn't say jaded. I would say I probably see more now rather than, and I'm looking for more things now. I think as your knowledge increases and your experiences change, instead of being transported to that place, now I'm looking for that perfection in a way. I'm looking for that thing that excites me. And sometimes you get it and you're just like, that's absolutely perfect. And then other
Where
times
do I
you're
go
thinking,
from here? Yeah.
where do I go from here? And sometimes you just think, oh, this is just missing that thing. It doesn't quite hit the mark. And sometimes, you try two drams that are from the same distillery and the presentation is totally different. So, I remember trying the Caolila from Gormick Fail, the Discovery series, and being bottled at 43%. Generally, I tend to feel a bit, my heart sinks slightly when I see strengths below 46, and
Yes.
it still stands up. It doesn't have the punch of quite a lot of drams, but it's got lots of flavour. The smoke is maybe lighter, but there's fruit that comes through at that strength. It was really good, but it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think the longer you're in the game for, and the longer you drink for, the more you actually look for things that you have to do a double take with, because you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. That has made me interested.
And I think that what you can do is you have a fortunate position in that you're able to. Most of my moments, certainly recently in recent weeks, have been alone. I'll be sipping a whiskey, and you don't have that sounding board. You don't have somebody to pick something out or bounce it off. You're probably sipping a lot of these things in an environment where you're with people at a very, very similar level as yourself, seeking out the similar experiences. In the shop, I'm talking about the Roddys and Shane and yeah.
Well, very much so. When we're sitting tasting drams for the shop, it'll normally be Roddy, Shane, myself, maybe Peter, Sarah, and then maybe some of the other guys that work there as well. If they're there, then we'll try and encourage them to join in. But generally, the core would normally be Roddy and Shane and myself.
Yeah.
And it's great because you do, I love that moment when you taste something and it's just that, when you look up at someone and you just know when your eyes meet that that's a special dram, because you both of you are, you're just like, oh yeah, that's
absolutely
what we need, and it's just great because, we do this because we love it and we love that opportunity to try things and then share.
As he was saying, Roy, you're not alone. There are over 200 people watching. They're about 200 people watching. Absolutely, Dave. Of course, that's why I'm getting to love these environments so much. But what Matthew's talking about is specifically when you make eye contact with somebody and you've had that moment and you just, it's something to savour. I noticed here a wee dram being bought for me by Jim Ingram, Whiskey Novice over Northern Ireland. Thank you so much, Jim. He's saying great chat as always, Roy. Cheers. Well, I've got a couple of questions for you, Matthew, to kind of stimulate more of that kind of chat, if you're up for it. Yeah. These are I didn't ask for questions this time, but people have. When I mention that I've got a guest on, I tend to get them in, and I think it's quite a cool thing. A couple of them are just funny. Willie Dollier has asked a question for Matthew: If you had only 5 minutes to grab 2 bottles and a glass from the shop, what would they be and why those bottles? So I imagine an earthquake type scenario or, if some kind of disaster is happening, you can grab what you can hold and run. What are you going to take from the shop? What shop are you in? Bath Street, of course, right?
Yeah, Bath Street. Yeah, that's probably, there's 2 bottles I would probably grab. One would be just because I want to taste it. We recently received a bottle of 1969 Mortlach from Gormick Fail. And it's, we partly bought it because Shane and Peter, our shop manager, were both born in 1969. But old Mortlach from Sherrywood is just wonderful stuff. And I'd probably grab the 6-year-old Lafroig that we bottled a few years ago. That was just amazing. We bottled it under our own label, cast strength, and it was just.
But you've none of that left, have you?
Oh no! Well, we've got our bottle number 1 in our cabinet in the tasting room.
Right. Okay, and that's it. So you'd grab that Lafroig. It's interesting. A 6-year-old and a 1969 vintage. It's quite a remarked difference. And the 6-year-old Lafroig, if I go from memory, yeah, that was about what, 60 quid?
No, probably closer to 50.
55
quid. 55 quid. Yeah.
And how much for the 69 Mortlach? Is that retailing?
It's about £5,000 or £6,000. Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
So that's why you're picking up that one. It'd be nice to taste it.
It'd be nice to taste it. Yeah.
It's the most efficient value you can run with, probably, right?
Pretty much. But the packaging is absolutely ludicrous. It's the first bottle we've received in the shop that came on its own pallet.
Yeah. The next question is from Alan McLaughlin, who's wants to thank you for the deliveries you've been making to him. He's obviously around Glasgow. I think he's out Steps way. Firstly, given the breadth of customers that will walk through the door from passers-by to those just looking for that unique gift, to the novice, more advanced, geeky about their knowledge and search for bottles, what does Matthew feel is important in methods and engaging with customers from all types of levels in a specialist shop? I'm going to take that one notch further. I'm going to take Alan's situation. Let's imagine Alan doesn't really know that much, but his father-in-law is into whiskey as well. Let's imagine somebody comes into you and says, I need to get a really nice gift for my father-in-law. And at home, he drinks Macallan. There you go. That's probably quite a challenging one for you. So this guy's obviously wanting to impress the father-in-law.
Yeah, of course. And, Macallan is a distillery with a very big reputation. Now, I suppose as a shop, it can be incredibly intimidating coming into a shop like ours, not because we try and make that. It's just because I think a lot of people have the assumption that you'll walk in and either we will make them look stupid because they'll ask questions that they think are stupid questions, which there are no stupid questions.
Absolutely.
And potentially, like any shop, there's always a nervousness when you're speaking to a salesperson that they're going to try and sell you something that they need to sell rather than something that they want to sell you or that you want to match you with the thing that you really need to walk away with. So typically, you need to kind of ascertain the kind of price bracket that someone's comfortable in. So we typically say, what sort of price are you wanting to spend? Where do you want to kind of sit in terms of price point on the shelf? Because then that gives you a way of narrowing down the bottles. I'm very, when you sell anything, I'm terrible for this. I'm terrible for giving people too many choices, because often you'll be saying, oh, this would be great because it's got this and this and this. And then you say, oh, this would be great as well. And that would be amazing. And you could try this. And really, it's much easier to simplify it down to 3 bottles, because all you're doing is making it more difficult for the customer.
Overwhelming them. But that's your enthusiasm getting carried away, I guess. I suffer from that too. Okay, I'll narrow it down then. 50 quid.
50 quid. Well, typically, if you like Macallan, then Macallan is famous for its sherry casks. So I typically look, if you're looking for something that's not Macallan, Glendronach would normally be my first stop, or maybe the Benria sherry cask, 12-year-old, which are both good whiskies. Benriach's a bit lighter. Glendronach's a bit weightier. Again, a great distillery. Both offering great whiskies, and you can probably get a bit more value for money from Macallan than Macallan these days from those 2 distilleries.
Absolutely. I think Glendronach 12 would, and it's 43%, would be soft, so you're not kind of pushing it to give him something that he might find hot and spicy or whatever. Alan's actually here, and he said, my father-in-law likes Cardew Gold, but don't worry, I'm evangelizing whiskey, and I've recently sent him samples, and he's loving cask whiskey. It sounds like, though, Glendronach 12 would have gone down quite well. Alfie Robinson is a follow-up to this. I've noticed on the Whiskey Tribe and my own experience that people often warm to peated drams early in their whiskey journey. Absolutely, Alfie. more than the smooth stuff, found this too. The single most effective converter of all my friends to whiskey has been peated whiskey, bizarrely. So when I've struggled with the Cardew Golds or whatever it was, the super soft 40% space cider, when they've been going, I just taste whiskey, then you give them a powerful, bold hook flavor like a peaty whiskey, and they say, okay, wow, there's something in this, I can taste something. This is clearly different. This is a different drink altogether. Alfie, I absolutely agree. Do you find that as well? Do you find that you can find that you can get people curious just by putting a wee tiny drop of something really powerful and smoky in a glass?
I think so. Often when we've got someone in who is a bit of a novice, and we've got time to do it, and obviously at the moment it's not possible, but back in the day when things were normal, we'd often pour a few different whiskies for them to try, just to say, right, this is an introduction. So you can try, if they're saying, I'm not really sure what style, you can go for maybe start with a grain whiskey, maybe something lighter, unpeated, something sherried, and maybe something peaty, just to go, right, there's a very broad brush kind of introduction to some basic styles. Where do you feel comfortable? Where do you want to go with that? And often people will be excited by the smoky whiskies because they don't understand how a whiskey can have that smoky character.
Yeah,
they understand the standard kind of whiskey sort of palette, but when you approach these these smoky flavors, they're quite dramatic. And I remember when I was first getting involved in the booze trade, I was really started to cut my teeth with. Well, I was drinking whiskey in my own time, but when I first started working the booze trade, it was in the wine trade. Really, it was the confidence, and I remember trying. I was trying to learn as much as I could, and it was a lot to do with just tasting as much as possible. So I was taking a bottle of wine home every night, trying it, trying to read up about it, trying to understand it. And there were some wines I just could not understand. I remember trying the first Barolo I ever tried. I just did not understand at all because it was a cheap example of it, and it didn't taste typical in any way. But when I actually tasted a really good example of that wine, it really opened up my eyes to what it could taste like. And when I went back to the cheaper version, I could then pull out those flavors from it.
Interesting. Yep. I get that completely. Yes.
So in a way, when you try something that's a really good example of something, you then are able to go back and see, pull those flavors out of other whiskies and see, or other drinks that you're trying. So it's a really good thing to do, to practice, to taste as much as you can, just because it opens up your ideas of what whiskies can be.
I had a really fun thing I did a couple of years ago where I was on BBC Radio's Kitchen Cafe. I went through to Edinburgh to talk about a whiskey. They were using whiskey as a cooking ingredient, but they wanted me to talk about it as a sipping thing. And how would I evangelize to a newbie? And it's very similar what I used there. I used a bourbon cask. I used a heavy sherry cask, an Allardyce, actually, a Glendronach 18.
Oh.
The bourbon cask, I'm trying to remember what I used now. I can't remember what I used. Maybe it was a Glenmorangie 10 or something. I don't really remember. But you have to keep the ABV down when you're doing that. ABV is the biggest challenge you're going to get. And then obviously I'm sure it was a Lagavulin 16 for the peaty side. So you had the bourbon cask, sherry cask, and the peaty whiskey, three completely different kind of bookmark, almost like caricatures of their style, to give people that exact thing, to give them the bold, big flavors, to give them the hooks, to make them see the contrast and understand that whiskey was very, very variable and different. And I've used that. And the reason that I do it that way is because I've found that a very effective way to do it around my own dining room table. Anybody that comes to my house just has to deal with the fact they're going to get bullied with whiskey. Most of them seem to be okay with it, but it's just it's something I like doing. We can't find rarely. Doc is in from Germany saying, occasionally, as you know, I am helping my local dealer when someone is sick. It is really challenging to answer those questions. I like this, XYZ, what would you recommend? I can imagine it would be tricky, which is why you're getting pulled in those directions to offer multiple choices, because what you really want to do is send them out with something they're happy with. That's I mean, it's more than just having repeat custom. It's the job satisfaction, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. You know, when someone says, I like this style, and you say, well, this is kind of like it, but it's more in that direction. Or you can try that, and it's kind of like it, but it's more in that direction. And because, you know, no two whiskies are ever the same. So you're kind of saying, well, in this ballpark, you could go in these directions.
Skogsmard is saying, have your have your friend play a game of Is It a Speyside? And I don't even think you know what that is. Is it a Speyside? Do you?
What's that?
It's a game that we play here, Matthew. I know that you're typically either working or probably tucked up in bed when the vPub goes out. But Is It a Speyside? Jimmy Legacy and Roy the Bully, absolutely. Is It a Speyside is a game that we play here on the vPub, and basically it's based on the concept of you have a blind malt, and all you can do is answer yes or no, and somebody's got 10 questions to narrow it down and guess what it is. It has to be Scotch single malt from core range. I don't know if you fancy it now. The thing is that you don't have one on hand, so you have to ask me if I got one on hand. Yes, I have. I don't know if that's being fair. Okay. It's a tricky one I've got. I didn't have this prepared. We don't usually play it when there's a guest on, but I can understand why Skogsmard is suggesting that we play this game since you're on. You up for it?
Yeah, okay.
So basically, the reason it's called Is It a Speyside is because the opening question is almost always Is it a Speyside? Because you half the landscape into two, right?
Okay.
Now, it would be interesting because while you're a specialist retailer, but for so many of let's say especially the big blending companies, their core ranges, you're only going to stock certain parts of because you're much more focused towards independence and single casks. So I'm feeling really guilty. I'm looking around to see if there's anything that's a bit more. I mean, it's core range. Screw it. We'll go for it. We'll go for it, Matthew.
Okay.
Self and glory on the blind. So
Okay.
let's see. Okay, so you've got 10 questions. Ask away.
Right. Is it a Speyside?
Yes. So typical questions, just to help you out a wee bit if you're not used. Is it a Glen? Is it owned by one of the big four? That's Diageo, Pernod Ricard, Grants, Edrington, I guess. Is it 46% or above, 46% or below, blah, 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 yada, yada, that kind of thing. So it's just trying to find ways to lock it down.
Okay. Okay. Is it a Glen?
No. Which actually helps a lot.
Is it owned by one of the big companies?
Yes.
Is the standard presentation a 12-year-old?
No. That's why I'm.
Is the standard presentation no age statement?
No. It is an age statement.
Okay. Is it owned by Chivas?
Yes.
Is it Strathisla?
No. That would be 12-year-old.
Oh, I thought it was a 10. I thought 10 was a new one. Maybe it's gone up to 12.
I have to say I would have picked something a wee bit lighter on you than this one, but it is core range and it's from Chivas. It's core.
Okay.
I'll give you a clue.
It's not. Is it Longmorn?
Sorry?
Is it Longmorn?
Oh, good guess, but no.
Oh. Okay. Hmm.
Don't worry when it gets to 0. You've got a Hurley as well.
So it's really 11 questions. Fair enough. Okay. What else does Chivas have? Space Side. Is it? It's not Glenbergie.
Oh no.
Okay.
You're not going to like me very much. I'm starting to feel heavy guilt.
All right. Okay. I'm struggling now to think of
Give
any
you
other.
a clue.
Go on.
Malt is less iconic. Well, not to everyone. To me, the malt is less iconic than the building. If you drive into Speyside, I mean, it smacks you in the face. It's one of those standout architectural, unique distilleries.
Oh, it's thingy.
It's thingy, yeah.
Oh, my brain. It is because was it built in the? Is it the one with the curling pond out the front? Pond out in front of the distillery. It was meant to be for curling, and then it never froze because it was too close to the distillery.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I don't think so. But maybe I don't want to answer that in case it is. I don't know how I would check that. I've never heard of that factoid. It's just such a distinctive thing, and the building is almost on the road. There's only one official bottle comes from it.
Yeah, I can. I'm going to kick myself because I can see it in my mind, but I can't get the name.
To visualize it.
Yeah,
it's a relatively modern distillery.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to get it.
If I told you it was 16 years old, presented at 48%, and I've been horrible. The crowd have got it. Greg has got it. Greg in France has got it. Yeah,
I can see it in my mind. I just can't get the distillery name.
Let's see. Look. I'll need to get rid of this to let you see it. Can you see?
Yeah, Tormore. Yes.
Tormore. Now, it's just when I reached around, the only thing I've got is the whiskies that we've shared tonight, obviously, and none of them are really core. And this one was sitting over there on the side. I wasn't prepared for a game of Visit a Speyside tonight. That was Skogsmard that bullied us into that. There you go. And it's that iconic building as you drive into Speyside on the right-hand side, right? It's just kind of like every time you see it and you think, the only way you can get a hold of Tormore is through an indie, right? Or occasionally you might happen across that core range of bottling. But again, I don't even know. Have you ever stocked that, Tormore?
From independent bottlers, but never from official bottlings.
Never the official one. Never the official one. So
we don't deal direct with Chivas, so it's a tricky one.
I'm going to. Skogsmard is saying yes with an exclamation mark. He was obviously excited that he was playing. So I'm now scrolling down to see if he was able to guess along. No, I don't think he got it. I don't think he guessed it. There's lots of guys in the chat that are brilliant at that game. Unlucky buddy, I thought you might have been in with a chance, but when I pulled it up here, I thought not only is that obscure as an official bottling, but because it's from Pernod Ricard from Chivas, obviously it's not going to be something that you can get your hands on very easily. It's just the scale that they ask you to trade, which is an interesting discussion point in its own right. Let's ask another wee question. This is from Alan again. What are your future plans for increasing the engagement with the community? That's from Alan McLaughlin. I think I could answer that one. Tell us about what you dry runned today. That's fascinating.
Yeah, well, we're looking at, like lots of other people, we're looking at starting doing our online tastings. So from Thursday next week, we'll have our first one. So we're being a wee bit coy. We've announced one tasting which sold out very, very, very quickly. We kind of want to get one or two under our belt before we start doing more of them. announcing too many, just so we can nail down our structure and make sure we've got our everything in place, because there's going to be headaches and there's going to be problems, I'm sure, just in terms of, we ordered 500 bottles the other day and they came in without lids, so we had to wait for the lids to come in.
Wow.
We've now ordered 5,000 more bottles just in case. Hopefully they'll arrive with lids.
Sample bottles, yeah.
Yeah, sample bottles, yeah. So we kind of need to make sure we've got things in place, and we can't announce tastings too far in the future unless we know we've got the stuff to do it. And then we also need to get into all the little logistic things like filling bottles and labeling them and sending them out and making sure they arrive safe in good time without any breakages.
Absolutely.
So we've got time to send more out. So it's there's lots of little things that we need to make sure that we've got right before we jump in with both feet. But the first tasting is going to happen a week tonight. And we're excited. It's going to be myself and my colleague Eastman hosting. And Eastman is character.
Can we just pause to talk about Eastman for a minute?
Of course.
Can we? And I'm just going to do this ad hoc because I have to say, if there's a post on Instagram from Eastman, it's the highlight of my Instagram scrolling for the day. What he started to do on your social media feeds is nothing short of fascinating. The guy is obviously not inhibited at all. He's very comfortable in front of camera. He's obviously got some background in some kind of performing arts, I think. But any of your social media feeds on Instagram, Good Spirits Co. So let's go to, was it Clarence Drive was the first time I saw, because I think it's probably still my favourite Eastman. Yes, here it is. I'm going to try and share this. This is really clunky, but it might work. I'll try the volume. It's on a loop because it's Instagram. This is the type of things that you guys getting up to at the Good Spirits Company in Glasgow.
Yep.
So this is this character Eastman, and there's multiple posts on there. He's talking about how Wild Turkey 101 got its 101 name. He's
completely made up, obviously, because it's clearly not. But it's just the way he does it with the confidence of going, and this is how it works out, and you're just like,
absolutely.
How did you come up with that?
It's funny. It's so funny, and it's the kind of thing, because Instagram videos are on a loop. You don't really control the scrubbing like normal videos, so you have to kind of sit through and watch the thing. But you watch it and you watch it again, and you watch it because it's funny. It's just absolutely comical. So I have to say, if any of your Instagrammers out there follow the Good Spirits Company, maybe you're not local to Glasgow, but follow them anyway, just for kicks and fun from Eastman. How far can you ship nationwide, I guess? Can you ship abroad, Matthew?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we ship all over Europe. We were shipping over to the States through Scotch whisky auctions, but
yeah.
They've just reopened, so that will hopefully restart soon. But obviously, the tariffs are causing problems with shipping whiskey over to the States.
But if somebody's trying to get hold of a very particular bottle, I know the tariffs are very, very difficult. But it's interesting that it's an option there for folk that are in the States, because it's frustrating for them. I know Graham Young has bought me a dram. Graham, you've got no joy at all being in Canada, big guy. I mean, Good Spirits Company is an icon of taste in Glasgow. There you go. Graham Young's got his daughter here studying, and he comes over from time to time from Canada, and he obviously frequents the shop when he's over. Thanks for the virtual dram, Graham. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's lovely. That was something that was so surprising that we found, where people who obviously travel and come to Glasgow, and we find that folk who come to Scotland and come regularly to Scotland will often come to Glasgow regularly, because most tourists who come to Scotland the first time will go to Edinburgh. They'll do the kind of tick off things like St Andrews, Loch Ness, Edinburgh, the Royal Mile, but they won't actually get to know Scotland. And the folk who actually make the effort and come to Glasgow will often come back multiple times. And It's been lovely. We've got so many lovely customers who pop in from all around the world who are just like, oh yeah, hi, just back in time. And
looking for a wee souvenir, a wee travelling souvenir to go home with.
Just come in for a chat, and it's lovely. It's just a really nice thing because you suddenly realise that we've got, people have clearly enjoyed coming in to see us. It's clearly something they want to do. So yeah, it's quite humbling really when people do that.
Absolutely. And I tell you, I've enjoyed bringing folk into the shop as well. And you're very indulgent. Everybody has time to talk to people, not just about whiskey and things. I have to say it's a nice environment. And what you touched on earlier when you talked about that intimidating feeling that folk can have when maybe they feel like they don't really know anything about whiskey and they're just looking at all these labels and brands and things that they've never heard of before, concepts that they've not heard of before. I remember feeling like that, even at airports and in specialist shops, wherever I was going to be. And I remember being confused when I first looked at supermarket whiskies. It's a nice environment to go into, and you never really feel, like you say, that somebody's going to try and upsell. I think that the vibe in the shop is very much about appropriate sell.
Yes.
And I think that
we always, whenever we get someone new in the shop working, we always say, impress on them how important it is to think about the next sale. It's not about this sale, it's the next one. You want to see that customer again, so you need to make sure you get it right. You don't, if upselling is appropriate in that you've got someone coming in who's looking for something, and the way they're talking about a whiskey that they're excited about, and you're saying, well, we've got these whiskies that are in that price point, but if you spend an extra wee bit, we've got this thing that is perfect, and that is absolutely fine if it's the right thing. But
some people genuinely want to be led. They want to up their game. They want to switch it up and explore the next level.
But equally, if it's below their price point, and you're saying, well, you want to spend 60 quid, but we've got this amazing whiskey at £45, which sounds exactly like the thing you want, that again is a great thing to do. Because people will trust you more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's almost obvious, but it's something that has to be stated that's the environment and that's the kind of the way that you want to play it. And as an independent, and I have to say, you've got 3 places now, you've got 22 staff. You mentioned to me that 22 people are now working for Good Spirits Company. That's fantastic. I know these are difficult times right now. I know you're having a tough time and it's going to be difficult for you to manage your way out of this, but yeah, you're doing everything right. You certainly deserve to. There's a birthday.
It's our birthday coming up, and we've got just a really great bunch of folk who work with us, and we love the fact that they enjoy coming into work. Love the fact that because they enjoy what they do, we've created a great atmosphere. We've got a very, very small.
I have to say, I would have fun hanging out with Roddy and Eastman all day, I think. And you yourself, of course, Matthew, but they look like good fun guys to hang out with through the day. Although I've seen Roddy's other side as well of occasion.
Yeah, when Roddy's having printer issues, then it's
printer issues.
Can be slightly stressful, but Roddy has been one of us. He's been with us for a long time, probably about 7 or 8 years, and he's been a real cornerstone of what we do. He's just absolutely, inspirational as a person. Yes, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that to him.
He's not watching. Don't worry. Listen, there's a lot of folk in the lounge as well, Matthew, that's come to really enjoy Roddy's words and the way he thinks about whiskey. Honestly, he's a fascinating guy to spend time with. There's a birthday in the lounge as well tonight as well. I want to raise a wee glass. It's Service Alafis. It's Andreas over in Norway's birthday today. Buddy, I'm going to raise this glass of 1983 Bill Blair and say many happy returns, Andreas. I'm looking forward to the next time that we get to raise a glass together. Happy birthday, my friend. Cheers. Superb. Matthew, are you thinking about staying for the quiz tonight with us? Is it a wee bit late? Is it past your bedtime?
What is it? I don't even know what the time is. 11:10. No, I can do that. That's fine.
Excellent. It's always nice when folks do. I've got one more question for you. Stefan Novak over in Germany sent me a bunch of really off-the-wall, bizarre questions. And he opened up by saying, Roy, I hope you don't mind, but I'm sharing these weird questions with you. And the idea would be that I would answer them and get back to him, I guess. But he also thought that maybe they'd be good questions for me to use for folk. And so much of the channel is contributed by the community. A lot of the culture, a lot of the in-jokes and things like that all come from them. And they often contribute quiz questions and things. But Stefan Novak has sent through, I'm not going to go through these, Matthew. I'm just going to pick one for you. These are so good that I'm going to use one of Stefan's questions for every guest that I get on. They're off-the-wall questions. But there's one for you, question 6, I'm going to ask from Stefan. A bit off the wall, because the Good Spirits Company, you're agnostic to whiskey, right? You love your Scotch, but you'll do world whiskies, you do bourbons and American whiskies, you've got everything in there. In fact, one of the whiskies that you evangelized to me about a few years back was Kavalan Taiwanese whiskey. So that was another Matthew McFadyen dram for me. If the whiskey world is flipped on its head and every Scotch single malt is from now on made with a bourbon mash bill, so I guess like our grain whiskey, and every bourbon only malted barley, while the rest of the distillery styles stay intact, peat, sherry, fresh, etc. Would you rather drink American single malt or Scottish bourbons?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. I think that
and he says
historically
will not like this one. Macallan Fine and Rare will not like that. Macallan Fine and Rare is not a bourbon fan. Sorry, Matthew. Sorry to interrupt.
I'd say that, like, historically, Scotch whisky was made with a variety of different mash bills.
Yes.
Malted barley wasn't exclusively malted barley that was used. So in a way, it'd be more historic to go back and look at, a slightly more varied mash bill.
So
having said that,
pot still distilled rye, pot still distilled oats, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Or a mixture of those things. Corn, though, that's interesting. I would probably, I think, the reality is that Scotch whisky is complex and exciting and interesting because you have a huge variety of opportunities for casks. You can use fresh casks, you use mostly refill casks, you can use first fill, second fill, third fill, whatever. Whereas in the US, it's all virgin oak. And virgin oak is so dominant flavor profile that it really overwhelms a lot of whiskies. And, there's a good reason that the kind of variation in flavor profile of bourbon is like that because of the cask selection, whereas Scotch whiskies like that, because you've got so many other options. You've got the peated, you've got all sorts of. You've also got a much cooler temperature here, so you've got a much slower maturation. So you've got time for spirit to change and develop and mature. And because you've got then going back to the cask, you've got different cask selection you can use. You've got a much greater palette of flavor profiles that you'd probably end up with. So I think the wet, Greek, damp Scotland is going to use better whiskies because it's wet, damp, and Greek than hot.
It's lovely to travel the world, but there's nothing like coming home. I have to say, so clearly, even if the mash bill was to switch up and we were to go to more bourbon-esque mash bills, you would still be happy to explore the Scotch whisky landscape if you were to choose only one. Yeah. Stefan, thanks very much for these questions. I think there's a lot of them here. And I hope that I'm reminded to keep rolling these out for future guests, because I think a lot of these could be fun. And never ever worry or be nervous about sending me weird questions. Thank you so much. Matthew, I have to say that I feel fortunate, and I know that there's a lot of people in the chat tonight, a lot of people in the lounge that are kind of feeling that they probably wish they had a specialist retailer nearby, somebody they could trust. Maybe they have got retailers nearby, but they're much bigger scale things. Maybe they live remotely and they have a significant drive to get to that retailer. I don't. I'm a short train ride from you. And I can nip in and out on my way to the whiskey club nights or whatever it is. I'm very lucky to have you there. But it needs more than that. It needs more than just convenience. it needs that integrity, it needs the selection, it needs the kind of trust and the reasonable prices and the value, it needs the community that's building up, the educational side, the tastings. You guys are doing it all, and I think we're all very lucky in Glasgow to have you there, and I'm very glad that the business is thriving as well, that it's going forward despite the challenges that you've seen recently and over the years. I would recommend anybody, if they're struggling to get their hands on anything, or if they find it in stock at the Good Spirits Company, obviously they've got an online website as well, but please reach out to the guys at the Good Spirits Company, and they'd be very happy to accommodate your inquiries and questions. You've been very good to me in the past.
And our website, although Sugarly at the moment, is due for an upgrade very, very soon. So,
did you say Sugarly?
It's Sugarly, yeah, Sugarly website.
Yes, we're very good at teaching people about Scots words like fusti and drich and all these things. So Sugarly, a bit shaky, right?
Shaky. Yeah, we've got a new website which should be launching next week at some point. This is causing Roddy lots of anguish and gnashing of teeth at the moment. He's in charge of that side of things. So hopefully it will be ready soon.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I look forward to that launching as well. Jimmy Legg, who's in Nova Scotia, is saying his shop is not as convenient for me as I would like, Aquavite, but glad to hear he's doing well.
That's a shame. Yeah. Well, just come and visit once this is all over. You know.
Alistair Grace saying Aquavite got a good bottle from them at the start of the year. Aaron, leaky cask, but bottle didn't last long at all. Oh, that was very, very low ABV, that, Aaron, wasn't it? The 9-year-old.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Extremely low. Apparently, they'd bottled half the cask, or they'd taken 100 bottles out of the cask a few years previously. And I think that might have disrupted it. Or maybe it was either disrupted the cask, so it became leaky, or by creating a lot more surface area, there was a lot more evaporation of the alcohol. But it ended up being 41.9% cask strength, natural cask strength. And it's
You had a significantly well-aged Bunnahabhain as well that was down at very low 40s cask strength. That was one of your bottlings as well. That was a gorgeous one. Do you remember it?
Oh, yes, it was amazing.
And
it was, I sourced that bottle from, or that cask from David Stark, and he was celebrating his 10th anniversary, his 10th birthday, and he invited a whole load of us down to his place. And he had all his importers and his distributors from all around the world there, and it was just a really amazing day. And we're in his office there, and he had this table with loads of bottles on. They're all just cask samples, and there was loads of people walking around tasting. I'd had a couple of drams, and I thought, right, I better go try some of these whiskies. And I went round. Lots of people were trying this one whiskey, saying, "Oh, this is good. And I was like, oh, okay." So eventually I made my way around to it, and it was just wonderful. And about a week later, I dropped him a line and just said, "Look, is that cask still available?" And he was like, "Yep." And I was like, "How much is it?" And it was incredible value, because we ended up selling it for just shy of £80 a bottle, £79.50.
It wasn't expensive, that's right. And I'm trying to remember the age. Was it like 21 years or 20 years?
28-year-old, or was it 27, 28? Bunnahabhain, cask strength, unpeated, and it was just fruit juice. It was tropical. Yeah. It was full of pineapple and
my friend the Whiskey Rev bought a bottle of it. I think it might have been shared at one of your tastings, actually, and lots of bottles went after the tasting.
Yeah, there was only about 100 odd bottles out of the cask, and it literally sold. We had a guy working with us at the time called Brian, he was absolutely amazing, a lovely guy. He now lives in Canada. In fact, he's the Ardbeg and Glenmorangie rep over in Canada.
Oh, nice.
And he was an absolute demon with it. And I think we sold the whole cask in about a week and a half. And that was kind of when we realized that we'd underpriced it slightly. But we just we put our normal margin on it, and that was it. We were thinking.
Well, I have to say, your own bottlings have been pretty damn good. I've enjoyed your Thrusk. I've still got a bottle on the go there. Your Taninic, I'm on my second bottle of the Taninic. enjoying that as well. And Alan McLaughlin is saying, a bit of a sell, but which current bottlings in Matthew's store would you recommend as something unique, whether they're bottling something else they got in? I would have to say I would recommend that. You've also got a unique Kingsbarns as well.
Yeah, we do. We got a single cask from Kingsbarns, which is just what lovely liquid. It's only 3 years old.
I've got it. It's through in the other room, but I have a bottle delivered to my door during lockdown, actually, from Alex. But what else would you recommend? Have you still got some of your own bottles in? Have you still got the Tininic?
Yeah, we've got the Tininic, we've got the Arran as well, still available, and we've got a few other things lined up for this year, but that look really interesting. Sadly, I can't talk about them just yet. But we do have some single cask whiskies coming that are going to be very exciting.
Well, at least make sure when there is time to share it, that you share it with us.
Yes, of course. And we've also got a plan, because obviously the shop's shut at the moment and we're not selling any of our expensive bottles. I'd mentioned this to you before. We're talking about doing a kind of bottle lottery where we pick a bottle off the shelf and I don't know, maybe £500-600, and we sell tickets for a lottery for it. So once we get to the value of the bottle, we'll then pick a name. So in Scotland, we've got this wonderful thing called minimum unit pricing. So you can't sell alcohol for below the unit price of it. So it's 50 pence per unit of alcohol. So that would normally work out
to be over the minimum pricing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the ticket would be, say, £17 or £18 a ticket. But once we hit the ticket sales that would then sell the bottle, we then pull a name and that person will win it. So we're looking at getting that off the ground in the next week or so.
Will that be in person or online or both?
It'll be online. Well, we do the tasting. I mean, the pooling. I'll probably do a video of it and show it and reveal it online.
Everything above board. Yep.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
It's nice to do it live as well. It's nice to have that kind of excitement, that thing happening. But that's interesting. So give me an example of what would be a £500 or £600 bottle that somebody could pick up for a £20 lottery ticket. What would that be?
Oh, I've got a Bruichladdich, 32-year-old Bruichladdich at the moment. Officially bottled a year or so ago. Just looks really interesting. Yeah, we've got
like a 33-year-old Bruichladdich for 20 quid.
Yeah.
And a significant game of chance.
I'd say, well, much lower chance than, you're talking, how many tickets? You're looking at maybe 40, 50, 60 tickets. So you've got a fair chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to do the maths in my head, not working, not failing miserably at the moment.
500 quid bottle, you'd be speaking about, if it was 20 quid a ticket, you'd be 21 in 25 chance then. That's pretty good odds. If it was £20, yeah.
So it's not a silly. It's not like entering the lottery. It's actually you've got a much bigger chance of doing it. So we're looking at doing that. So if you keep an eye on our social media feeds, we'll see it announced at some point soon.
Another answer to Alan's question about what kind of innovative things are you doing to engage people in the community a wee bit more, and that's quite exciting, especially if there's a live draw element to that as well. It'll be a wee bit like the whiskey lottery.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great fun to do.
If only we hadn't blown this and next month's whiskey fund, lol. Helen, I know exactly what you're talking about. Believe me, I know. Fantastic. Okay, let's get this quiz on the go, Matthew. Let's see how you're doing. I will struggle to keep it under 2 hours. Again, I'm always struggling with it. For everybody that's staying for the quiz, I'll say thank you very, very much. Remember, it's always multiple choice. There's no prizes. You're only keeping score against yourself. You can share the score if you want. Sorry?
Playing for pride.
That's right. It's just for kudos and brownie points. That's right. It's just trying to pass mark is usually 5 out of 10. Sometimes the questions are a wee bit tricky. There are often questions known as ASAC questions in there. There may be 1 or 2 in here tonight. Nobody's contributed. They're all my questions tonight. I'm taking full responsibility for them all. But I wish everybody the best of luck. Multiple choice. Matthew, good luck. You're going to participate.
Yep.
Okay, I
Look
might
forward
make
to
an
it.
enemy out of you as well then. Good luck, everybody. Question 1. Which of these lost distilleries was last to finally close? A. Rosebank, B. Little Mill, or C. Imperial? So, I don't know if you can see the YouTube chat. Can you? No, you can only see me on your screen. Yeah.
Only see you.
Waiting for the chat to catch up. There seems to be a wee bit of a lag tonight. They're quite a few seconds behind me.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's funny. All I can see is the screen. I'm not seeing any. I don't have the
chat. Usually what happens is that so it's dropped down to 195 now. What happens is when you draw the quiz, you kind of lose a chunk of the folk that quizzes aren't their thing. They were here for the drams and the chat kind of thing, which is fine, which is why I always do the quiz at the end. But I think I've mentioned to you already that if I scrapped the quiz, there would be mutiny. There would be some unhappy folk. Willie Dollier thinks C, Vicky Thompson C, Zach Andrews C, Stu Baby C, Alec Garringer, that looks like a new name, Alec, nice to welcome you in. Dominic Urban thinks B, good to have you, Dominic. Graham Horner B. What would you say, Matthew? What would you guess out of those three?
I guess is C.
Sorry?
Yeah, C.
Imperial.
Yeah, Imperial. Yeah,
absolutely. Imperial. Interestingly, if you consider Rosebank, that's being rebuilt right now. Obviously, slightly different distillery on the exact same site. Little Mill, unfortunately, it's going to be they would need to build that on a different site. But Imperial has been rebuilt. It's just not known as Imperial anymore. It's Dalmunnock now, right? But yeah, they managed to hang on, and I always feel for distilleries like Imperial, Little Mill, Rosebank, just a couple of years more, we could have kept them maybe, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've bought a fantastic Imperial from you guys as well. It's sitting behind me. I absolutely love it. Question 2. In the Bath Street branch of Good Spirits Company, they display a memento in tribute to what the shop was for 50 years previously. Now, I meant to kind of casually drop this into the feed tonight, and I don't think I did. So this has suddenly become an easy to an asshat question. I do apologise. Is it A, a pew, B, a clock, or C, a record deck? This is a kind of memento that's a tribute to what used to exist there for 50 years before it was the Good Spirits Company in Bath Street. So I appreciate that a lot of you might be guessing this now. Yes. When I summarised it, maybe I did. I don't know if I said it. I don't think I did. I don't think
you did. I don't think you mentioned it.
There we go. Stefan Novak is saying, what? Sorry, Stefan. I was supposed to kind of just casually let drop what kind of establishment the Good Spirits Company was founded in. Graham Horner is saying, Agua Vida, yes, there would be mutiny if the quiz went away. So that's me on warning. Graham Horner is now following up with, I've got asshat emojis, believe it or not, in the chat. You can't see this, but they're throwing asshat emojis at me right now, and I think it's fair enough. Matthew, tell us, what do you have as a tribute to your previous tenants?
The unit we were in, it was a very famous record store for a long time. So we have a record player or a record deck. It's a Technics. So the shop used to be called 23rd Precinct. So it was a very famous record store.
Was it kind of black and bright lime or yellow or something?
Bright yellow, yeah.
Bright yellow.
Yeah. Do a Google search, you'll find it.
I vaguely remember it, and I remember friends, and I told you about a friend that used to shop in there, and he said he was talking about it's the same. They've just taken away the records and put whiskey on the shelves, he said. So yeah, apologies for this one. I was supposed to help the lounge out and tell them that it was previously a record shop, and it is indeed a record deck that they have there on their countertop in tribute to that. Lots of people guessed right despite it, so well done all you guessers out there. Question 3. Adnams and St George's distilleries in England both A, have rye malt mix whiskies, B, have a 21-year-old whiskey, or C, have their distilleries located in the same English county. Daniel Gray saying, without the quiz, I'd never be able to keep my ego down to earth. Excellent, Daniel. Jimmy's 2 for 2 saying new one, guest one, well done. And Graham Young is saying he is a classic Technics turntable too, similar. So yes, Adnams and St George's distilleries. I forget about Adnams. I know that they do gin and other things, but I forget they do whiskey as well. St George's, obviously, we know those guys. And are you guessing here, Matthew, or do you feel that you know this one?
I'm guessing at the moment. Yeah, I'm guessing. But I think I'm right.
Okay.
Obviously, I think I'm right.
Okay, let's see what the crowd are saying. Jimmy Legg in Canada obviously saying, English counties, I know them well. Sarcasm is coming straight through Jimmy Legg. Matthew, what would you guess?
I'm going to see again.
See again? Oh, no.
Oh.
St George's is in Norfolk and Adnams is in Suffolk.
Yeah.
They're very close neighbours, probably less than an hour apart from each other. They're not in the same county, but they do both have now the Adnams is a 75%, 25% mix. I couldn't work out what the St George's was, but they both have released recently rye malt mash bill whiskies. I'd be interested to try them.
Yeah.
Lucky Matthew, I have to say that split the chat. They weren't sure. There was a lot of guesswork going on there. Question 4, which of these single malts feature in the world's top 10 single malt brands? This is global single malt brands. A, Glenord, B, Glenfarclas, or C, Glenmurray? Mark Slinger is suggesting the last one was an asshat question. Maybe a wee bit, Mark, but
maybe a wee bit. Interesting though. I think it's great to see distilleries popping up in different places and trying new things, not constrained by history.
And I think Adams would have been traditionally associated with their beer, obviously a brewery. And the fact that they're making gin and making whiskey and things like that as well, it just kind of colours the landscape a wee bit more. And I often say, Matthew, nothing guarantees good Scotch more than good English whiskey.
That's fair. I would say it's good to have some competition, healthy competition.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are you guessing here, or do you know this one?
I'm guessing, but I'm guessing. Do you want me to
go ahead? Give me your guess.
I think it's B.
Ooh, this is an asshat. This says you're gonna hate me, Glenord. The Singleton. Diageo do that tricky.
Yeah.
So they've got their Singleton that's supplied by Dufton, Glendullan, and Glenord. Glenord is the biggest of the three, of course. So Glenord features in the world's top 10 single malt brands, but it is a bit of an asshat question. Unfortunately, Glenfarclas not, and Glenmurray not. So if you answered A for Glenord, give yourself a point, and we go into the picture question. And I'm going to ask, now that's a handsome big red chimney there, but which of the red chimney distilleries is this? What are we looking at? Are we looking at A, Balblair, B, Benromac, or C, Benrinnes? These whiskies are gorgeous, Matthew. Now sees they've sat in the glass and I've been sipping along. I should have them a long time ago and given them a bit more time. I'd have nailed them. But the Springbank is playing like a Springbank. I can smell the Springbank now. I can smell the port. The Balblair has gone all really soft and kind of really gently spiced. The antique side of it's obviously shining through now, as is this Glen Grant. Yeah. My favourite of the three, I started with my favourite being the Glen Grant, but as it's gone on and the higher ABV and the extra spice on the other two, I'd say the Balblair has started to, the one I was calling odd at the outset, is just is become quite lovely.
Just some air often helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's it helps me to take my time with it, but I often rush it. Tell me, what do you think? What are you looking at here?
Well, Well, I know it's not Balblair.
That's good. You're down at 50-50.
I know, that's the problem. So I'm thinking it's probably too wee to be Benrinnes, so it's probably Benroma. That's my guess.
Kind of looks very similar to Benromac, but it's Benrinnes.
Ah,
And that mountain under the mist and the rain in the background there is Benrinnes up behind it there.
yeah. I saw it and I thought I looked like a hill, and I thought that probably is Benrinnes, but
I didn't pick the three options because they began with B. I picked them all because they're kind of white buildings with big red chimney stacks, right? So if you answered C for Benrinnes, give yourself a point. Well done. Macallan Fine and Rare is shouting from the rooftops, it's C. He's saying he's been there. Question 6. Which distillery allows water to trickle down the outside of their stills to increase reflux? Water down the outside. What a thing. Is it A, Dalmore, B, Fettercairn, or C, Jura? Matthew looked utterly confident.
yes.
I think he knows this one. I think I might have used this question or a derivative of it in a vPub, but I'd be going back a couple of years, I think.
I think it's a slightly tricky question because...
But I've specifically worded it.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Which narrows it down precisely.
Yes.
But it is tricky.
Yes. I have to say the crowd have kicked us out the park, almost exclusively got it. Marvin Michlis is in saying he's shouting B. Lassie Oatsman is shouting B, 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 B. Everybody seems to think Richie Z is saying B, and no doubt. Matthew, would you disagree?
Nope. B.
Absolutely B.
Yeah, absolutely B.
Obviously, Jura's a much more traditional setup, I think, but Dalmore have the water jacket. That's probably what you're thinking about there, that a slightly different way of achieving the same thing. But Fettercairn, in fact, I've got an image here that's really quite cool. You can see that kind of copper pipe around the outside that's just kind of pouring water down the neck of the still there, and it's turned the copper that kind of blackish blue colour, and the steam rising off it.
Yeah,
quite an interesting thing. Yeah. Fettercairn have just released a 16-year-old.
Yeah, I saw that.
But the presentation looks interesting. It's 70 quid. It's 46.7% or something. Okay. So there's a chance it might be non-chill filtered. It's very unlikely it's natural colour. But that's good because the 12-year-old came out far too expensive. And the 28-year-old were just having an absolute laugh at nearly £500.
Yeah, we've had lots of people walk away from it when they saw the price. I hope that, I think 70 quid seems a bit more sensible, and I'm excited to see what Greg Glass does with all their products over time, as he takes over more of the overall responsibility for some of the brands.
It might be that this 16-year-old is more of a Greg Glass influence. We never know. That would just be guessing, I guess.
I think he's taking more and more, but Richard still, he's such a legend. I think they'll be carrying him out rather than.
That's right. Yeah, it might be hard to let go of the reins. Daniel Gray is saying, if this was pointless, he'd be doing great. Sorry, Daniel. Question 7. After the success of the original 6 classic malts of 1988, Diageo decided to brand 4 hidden malts in 2002. So this was them extending that concept. They were Clynelish, Kalila, Glenelgan, and what else? A, Glenord, B, Cardew, or C, Nakandoo. Glenord, Cardew, or Nakandoo. It's an interesting one, this, because obviously they had the flora and fauna around at that time, but the flora and fauna was much more kind of almost like a set. If anybody's watched the flora and fauna video that I did, and it was kind of releases from distilleries that weren't otherwise represented by core range. So what they did is they extended the core range and they called it the hidden malts. And some flora and fauna has got promoted. But amongst these 4 hidden malts, this is a tricky one, Matthew, right?
It is a tricky one.
Two of these already existed. Two of them were already released, but one of them was given a rebranding and made part of the Hidden Malt series.
Okay. I've made a decision, but I'm not confident at all.
It was not previously a Flora and Fauna. What would you guess? I can see that you're having to guess this one.
Yeah, I am. I'm guessing Knock and Do, because I think Glengore's, it's never really been championed enough by them, or didn't.
Now that it's part of, well, it's mostly served at 40%, unfortunately. Which, when you've ever had an independent Glenord, it's such a crying shame.
Yeah, or even the old, like the 20, 30 years ago, the bottlings were exceptional from Glenord. Some of the manager's drams bottlings that I've had. I think I tried one. I can't remember when it was bottled, but Angus McFadyen let us try it once. It's heavily sherried, must have been high 60s%. Just wonderful.
Sublime.
Yeah.
That would have been a 90s manager's dram or something, right?
It was one of those. And I grew up quite close to there, so it kind of feels like a.
Oh wow, did you?
Oh yeah.
In the Highlands.
Yeah, I grew up in a wee place called Fermentation.
Well, Glenord is, I suppose, one of Inverness's local distilleries now that the Inverness distilleries have disappeared.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
how far would you have been from Inverness then there?
Well, when I grew up, well, after they built the bridge, it's about a 15-minute drive to Inverness,
Right,
from my parents' house. But before they built the bridge, it was a ferry ride.
A ferry ride,
or a long journey ride. So,
I didn't know that. I just had you as a Glaswegian, a very politely spoken Glaswegian.
No, Highlands born and bred,
Dogs Have No Uncles is saying he's got a 7-year-old Glenord from Carnmore, a peppery whiskey, but I quite like it. I can tell you that it was Glenord. It was indeed Glenord.
Okay.
They used to have a 12-year-old out around in the 90s. It was, as you say, remarkably underrepresented, so it got a bit upscaled and added to the hidden malts. But Cardew, you might remember around that time, 2002, they had their official single malt out, and they were in all that trouble because they changed it to a pure malt and just kind of put it out in the same packaging. So that happened around that time. And Nakandu is selling buckets and buckets in France and Spain as a 12-year-old for years. So they didn't change or mess with that. It was Glenord that was made part of the hidden malts in 2002. Bit of an obscure question. Which of these is said to be the oldest running bourbon still available today? A, Old Forester, B, Old Crow, or C, Old Grandad? Which of these is said to be the oldest running bourbon available today? People are putting banana skin emojis right and left. There's still decent scores going on. Peated on 3 out of 7. Wow, that's Frank. That's not your typical scoring. I hope you don't hate me. Lassie Hjort Oatsman is on 5. Richie Z is on 6. Wow, Richie Z, superb. As is Marvin Michlis. Per Christensen 5. Vicky Thompson 6. Jimmy Legg is saying, shite. Sorry, Jimmy. Is there anyone on 7? I'm looking for somebody on 7. It doesn't look like it. Okay, would you be guessing this one, Matthew?
I'd go A.
Old Forester. I can tell you, absolutely, Old Forester. But I've had to word this very carefully because there's another product out there that claims the exact same thing called Old Overholt.
Oh, yes.
So without me going down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out who was actually oldest, I just decided to say which of these is said to be, and it worded it that way, and put Old Crow and Old Grandad in instead. It's a very this was one question that was contributed by Stefan Novak as part of his bourbon quiz. It's a slight twist on the question that he originally submitted. Well done, Matthew. Question 9: which Islay distillery was celebrating its Fashil Open Day today on the 28th of May? A, Bamore, B, Bunnahabhain, or C, Kilchoman? Who was celebrating their Fashil Day today? I know so many of you would have been participating in some of the things that they were doing for us online. It was mentioned earlier in the stream. So if you were here at the start of the stream and you were listening, this is a shoe-in for you.
I'm trying to remember back. That's my only...
I wonder, do they keep it the same every year, though?
I don't know. I think Ardbeg typically is the first, because it tends to clash with our birthday, which causes problems.
Oh, wow. Well, it's any time I've been there, they've opened with Lagavulin and closed on Ardbeg.
Okay.
But that's been recent years. Although the first year I went over was 2010, and Ardbeg was the last day as well. It was a peeing wet day in 2010. It was a wet one, but still a great day. It's a great day. So what would you be guessing then?
I'm going C, Kilchoman.
Well done. The Lounge killed it as well. They're all going for C for the most part. They think the exact same thing. Kilchoman had their open day today. Tomorrow is Abunahaven, and then the weekend we've got Ardbeg. Last question. It may be a bit of an asset. How's the scoring doing, Matthew? How are you getting on?
Well, I'm quite pleased. I've got 5 so far, so at least I know I've got 50.
You've got the pass mark. You're in safe territory. That's good.
I feel kind of okay. Although I kind of need to have one more because question 2 was a bit of a cheat.
Oh dear, I'm not sure you'll get it with it. I'm trying to remember what the last one was, but I remember I think it's an interesting one, let's say. Russell Raymaster is saying Ardbeg is the last. Absolutely. Gordon Dundas is in. Good to have you in joining us, Gordon. Fantastic to have you here. Each distillery always has the same day, and he's shouting Kilchoman. You're absolutely right. Daniel Gray saying saving face at the end, hopefully on 3 out of 9. I'm looking for Stew Baby, Orange Wool, Desi Vleeland, Cressmere, all on 7. Well, Richie Z is doing well. He's celebrating on 8 out of 9. Fantastic. Greg's Whiskey Guide 3. Greg, you normally kill it as well. That's a tough one. It must have been a tough quiz tonight. Vicky's on 7. Jimmy Jazz on 6. Royale 4315. Lindsay Holman 6. Looking for anybody going to beat Richie Z tonight? I'm not seeing it. Richie, this might be your quiz tonight, my friend. Andrew Butler is also doing very well. Andrew, you do very well on these. He's on 8 out of 9 as well. So between Andrew and Richie Z, let's have a look at the last question. And it looks like I've slipped over 2 hours again. Damn. How many Scotch whisky distilleries does Imperador White and Mackay own? Imperador, I don't know. How many distilleries do they own? A, 3, B, 4, C, 5. How many Scotch whisky distilleries do they own? We've discussed a couple tonight. The banana skin emojis are flying in now. So there are custom emojis that they can only use in this chat. All of them are there are some nice ones in there like Glencairn glasses and things, but some of them are specifically around topics like, is it a Speyside game, or the quiz ass hats and banana skins. There is a consensus right across the lounge. What would you say, Matthew? Oh, he's looking off at the distance.
I know, I'm going B4.
4, B, okay.
Yeah, B4.
Marvin Michlis is saying B, but probably missing one. Yes,
yeah,
I'm going to take hate. I'm going to take hate for this. It's 5. They have Jura, they have Dalmore, they have Tamnavulin, Fettercairn, and Invergordon.
Another local one to me. I forgot about that.
Invergordon, aye, just north of Inverness, not far from Dalmore, right? It's
really close. And
yes, and I awarded it. I said I didn't say malt distilleries. I just said Scotch distilleries. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, La Martini Cays, we only know them for Glenmurray, but they've got a grain distillery down here in the Lowlands called Starlaw. We tend to forget about the grain distilleries that are out there, understandably. But yes, and I'm Per Christensen is throwing the asshat emojis at me. I'll take it, Per. It is a wee bit of an asshat question, I have to say.
It was good though. It was good. It makes you think.
Peated saying, there you go, you have your hate. Let's see. I'm looking for Richie Z and Andrew Butler to see how they got on. Mark Slinger got 8 out of 10. Great score, Mark, as did Alistair Gray. Superb, Alistair. Graham Young, 8 out of 10, slipped on the last 2. Unlucky, Graham. Oh, wow. I've lost Richie. Where are you, my friend? I'm looking for your wee icon. And I'm looking for Andrew as well. Andrew Butler, oops, and I know someone who works at Invergordon. Oh dear, well, I guess Andrew didn't get it, so he's stuck on his 8. Let's see, I just want to try and catch Richie. Richie's saying 8 out of 10. He got 8 out of 10. Both of them stuck on 8 out of 10. Still great score. I think tonight's quiz was a wee bit challenging, but they're a super knowledgeable crowd of folk, and 8 out of 10 in this quiz like that is pretty impressive, would you not say?
Really good.
Millions and millions of 7 out of 10 as well. Fantastic. Matthew, I've had a very comfortable time chatting to you. Thank you so much.
That's been lovely. I'm delighted. Thanks for inviting me over.
Aye. And I have to say, I'm very glad when I asked you, I said, would you consider coming on and talking about that kind of retail thing, that business born of passion and all that? And you weren't phased at all. You were just like, aye. I'm very glad that you did. But I think it is. It's interesting because we always have to kind of cast our net when it comes to learning about whiskey and educating ourselves about whiskey. And I think we often forget that specialist retailers are a fabulous source of knowledge. And it's not always just about try before you buy, recommend a bottle type thing. It's just getting a general kind of 5-10 minute chat on as you're picking up your whatever it might be that you're picking up. And you don't get that experience when we're buying online. Don't get me wrong. I know that shopping online is convenient and things. I'm nothing against the folk that do, and I do it myself. But if you can get along and hang out at your specialist retailer, you might find that they're very willing to become your pal and tell you lots of cool things. Thank you for the Benrinnes. Thank you for the Cavalans. Thank you for all the Epiphany whiskies that's been brought to me out of that wee shop in Bath Street, Matthew. It's a pleasure. I'm glad to have you there, as I've already said, and I'm very glad to have welcomed you into a vPub, my friend.
That's been great fun. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Please stay in the live, and once the live's finished, I'll jump in and I'll raise a wee glass just to say thank you to you, Matthew. Thank you so much, my friend.
No worries.
Cheers. Peated is saying, thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Aquavite, for an interesting vPub. Thank you so much, Peated. Daniel Gray is saying, great vPub once again. An oasis in this desert of despair at the moment. I'm sorry to hear that, Daniel, but I'm glad to be able to bring you a wee bit of light of a Thursday evening. Thank you, Roy. Roll on Sunday. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hellswood is saying, another great session. Thanks again, and thanks to Matthew. He is a gentleman, isn't he? Alistair Gray is saying, thank you, Matthew. Fair winds and Everwinds in. I didn't spot you till then. Fair winds and fallen seas, malt mates. Thanks, Matthew. Thank you so much, everyone. Lunaran is saying, very nice chant, and thank you to Matthew and Roy. Jimmy Legg is saying, I sent you the highest quiz question ever. Oh yeah, I did get a quiz question from you, Jimmy. Thank you very much. Hellswood is saying, is the new Fettercairn a travel retail exclusive? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's a general release, but I'll need to check. There can't be much business done through travel retail right now. Al McLaughlin is saying 8 out of 10, can't spot a 9 out of 10 so far. I think that's about the best. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me on another Thursday night. It was wonderful to welcome you. It's wonderful to be able to hang out with a gentleman like Matthew as well and understand the whiskey landscape from his perspective as well. I hope if you're in Glasgow, you get to drop in and say hello to Roddy, to Matthew, to Shane, to Peter, to Eastman, to Sarah, to Victoria, to Katrina, to all the folk that work, and to Alex as well, who's very good at delivering whiskey on his bike, believe it or not. To all the folk that I've missed, I don't know them all out at Good Spirits Company. They're in Clarence Drive, they're in Bath Street, and they've got a beer shop just round the corner as well. Jimmy Legg has bought me a dram saying, since you won't give me... let me give you more on Patreon. Jimmy, thank you so much, my friend. It's always a pleasure to have you hanging out with us. I'll raise this wee glass of Balblair and say thank you for the dram, Jimmy. One day, I'll be buying you a dram in real life. Cheers, my friend. I'm going to say thank you so much for your time tonight. I'll be hanging out with you again for a much more casual, laid-back, just me session on Sunday night as well. And I'm already very, very close to finalising the guest for next week as well. I teased it at the start of the show. I'm really hoping that Kirsty McCallum is going to be able to come on and hang out with us and talk about her new challenges and roles up at Glen Murray. It'd be wonderful if I could get Kirsty McCallum to come on and share whiskey with us. I'll see you guys on Sunday night. I'll raise this wee glass of a 21-year-old 90s Glen Grant. Of course it is now. I'll raise it a glass and say thank you all for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. Slán